So welcome to another episode of Suburban Bourbon. This is episode number 7, first episode of season 2, by the way. We made it to the second season. We've gotten hopefully out of COVID now.
That's right.
And we're very excited about today's show. We're actually at Char, whiskey bar and restaurant here in Rocky River, who has probably one of the most phenomenal selections of bourbon in the Cleveland area.
You just look at it, it's bottles and bottles, and it's not just the number, it's the variety of bottles. I mean, things that you just don't see at any bars. So we're pretty excited to talk to Gabe today. And why don't you tell us, just for all of our viewing audience, what's the address here for Char?
It's 19337 Detroit Road, Rocky River.
And tell us, Gabe, how you came up with the concept of Char, maybe what your background was, what brought this together, because there's been a lot of different restaurants here in Rocky River in this area, and this has been by far one of the most successful.
Yeah, this was my first restaurant concept. Started developing it somewhere around 2014. It was the third restaurant that we opened. Just was waiting for the correct spot to put this concept. Wife and I have come up with 5 different restaurant concepts so far, working on a 6th. But it just had to be in the right location. Around 2013, me and my best friend, Patrick, who is a partner here, started drinking whiskey. We were tired of beer and
You matured.
cigars. In your 20s, I don't think you should, probably drink as much whiskey, you're being less responsible, but somewhere around 31 I started getting into bourbon and whiskey and doing sippings instead of, shooters and stuff like that. So that's where the concept came from, and then just, I'm kind of that older millennial where, you collected baseball cards and stuff like that. And I feel like anybody who collected baseball cards collects bourbon now. So
That's a great analogy.
We're Gen X and we're in the same boat.
Yeah. What was the whiskey or bourbon that first got you started when you said like 2013 you started?
I was out with a friend here in Cleveland, and I can't remember the bar that we went to, but Woodford Reserve had just started kind of getting big. So I just went out and I had a couple with my friend, and it was great. The buzz is slower and more building with whiskey, and it just it was a cold Cleveland night, and whiskey warms you up, and it was kind of that. And then I went into the Jefferson's Reserves kind of right after that. The Jefferson Reserve was my favorite for probably a couple years until I started getting more of a palate and trying more things. But the Jefferson line is always fantastic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are 2 staples in both of our houses and in most bars. And it's funny because those are 2 that we've done blind taste tests. Jefferson's won the one because it is just so smooth. It's got a great finish, and people will get drawn to it. So I'm not surprised by what you brought up. My first was Blanton's.
Okay.
And I was at a friend's house. I had never had, as I call it, a big boy drink where it was just on ice or straight. And he gave me a glass of Blanton's, and from that point on, I was hooked.
Well, my business partner and best friend Patrick, he lived right next door to me from 2014 through like 2016, 2017. So once a month we'd have a cigar, and I'd go find a bottle of bourbon for us to try. And then back in those days, doesn't seem too long ago, but Blanton's was on the shelf with dust on it. Exactly. So, that was one of ours that we really liked to have. One that we really fell in love with, which is on my flight here, is Masterson's 10-Year Rye. It's a Canadian rye. It is one of the best tasting whiskeys that I've had. I'd say it's in my top 10. Very smooth, very drinkable. You get slight notes of honey at the end. It became our instant favorite. A friend of mine actually used to rep it when he worked for Southern Glaziers, and that's how I got one of the first bottles that came off the thing I had. I wish I still had the bottle. I was young and naive and got rid of the bottle, but it was batch 1. bottle.
Wow,
It
wow.
was like bottle number like 900 or something like that out of the first batch, and it was just as soon as I tried that, I was just like instantly into, like this is cool. Let's do this.
So what is your secret? I mean, we've been to a lot of different bars, in Ohio, outside of Ohio. You have a great selection. How do you come by some of these bourbons? Because some of them aren't that easy to find.
No, I would say 80% of my collection here are, stuff that you can pretty much get all the time. But like getting a collection like this is dedication. I work on this every week. It's finding what's coming out, being able to work with different people to get allocations of this stuff. Just it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. But being able to, you get a little bit of preference because you are a whiskey bar. That's what you're known for. So like, when something is coming out, like my reps know that I'm interested in whiskey. I'm not interested in the gin, but it's kind of give and take.
Right, right. It's funny, as Joe and I have been doing this podcast, and we've always tried to portray it as we're not whiskey or bourbon snobs. We learn, we're not, you see some podcasts where people are, it's almost like a wine tasting. We're not that group. We just enjoy finding new bourbons, going to new places. And one of the things we've learned is it really takes good bartenders. I notice now when I go places, I think you do too, when people don't know what they're doing and the drink will just come out strong. They think that, oh, well, I'll make it stronger for you. You'll like it now. And bourbon, the reason I like it is such a great mixture for cocktails. The right ones, certainly not all. Some you want to drink straight. But it's such a smooth drink that can integrate into really whatever you want to make it, especially if they know what they're doing.
True. We do. My wife does all of our cocktail programs, so a lot of time and energy goes into that. We usually kind of start that late in the process to kind of get up fresh ideas, but she does a great job of like research, and we have a couple nights where we perfect all the cocktails, and those are fun nights.
What are the cocktails that tend to be the most popular here?
Here, our most popular drink overall is the Hey Jealousy, which actually is a vodka gin drink.
That's ironic.
By the way, I love the names of your drinks.
Yeah, we have some musical influences on 6 of the cocktails here. 4 of them over at Avo Modern Mexican on West 25th in Ohio City. And then we just opened up our music atmosphere restaurant with Southern Comfort Food on East 4th next to the House of Blues. That's called Indie. But yeah, so like the Hey Jealousy is a Gin Blossoms reference to the 1996 song Hey Jealousy. So it's a gin drink. And then we freeze an edible orchid inside of a whiskey mold. So that's the blossom.
Wow.
That's what do they say? Next level.
Yeah.
A lot of small details go into a lot of the cocktails for us. So
That's another thing too. The presentation is a lot of it, but having a well-balanced drink is everything to what Joe was saying, and I think that's the part that when we've been here, whether it's the cocktails I've had have been off the charts.
yeah, our second most is probably the Maplehattan, which is with Weller Reserve. It kind of tastes like breakfast, and we serve it with a toasted waffle on the side.
We're getting one of those.
Yes.
That's great at brunch. It's great after dinner. It looks great. It's served in a low martini glass.
I was mentioning before we went on air that I loved your Sazerac. It's just well done, and that's a drink that we've talked about this in other shows that you could do incredibly wrong if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. And again, your bartender knew. As I was watching her, put the absinthe in there, and she was doing it and didn't serve it with ice because you never serve them with ice. She just knew what she was doing, and it made a difference. As a consumer sitting up there, I go, I'm getting the right thing. Yeah.
I mean, we're dedicated to having the same experience over and over, whether that's the drink or the service or, the atmosphere. So a lot of time and energy goes into, making sure that happens for you guys. Especially being here in the community of Rocky River, it's not a tourist destination. You don't have new faces every day. We have an incredible amount of regulars that we see a couple times a week. So we try to be part of the community and make sure that we're taking care of our regulars.
What about we had talked earlier about the barrels. Can you talk about some of the barrels that you have and are coming here to Char?
So we, back in 2019, pre-COVID, had signed on to get a barrel of weather foolproof. That came early last year. We still have a little bit of that barrel left, but next week we have a barrel of Old Forester barrel proof that we selected back in November. That was on social media when I did that. So if you can look back in November, you'll be able to see which one we picked. It's like a 4 to 5 year old bourbon. I can't remember exactly the proof, but I think it was around 127 and a half. But they said that might change in the next couple months between that and barreling. So I'm interested to see what if it. I don't think it's going to go down. I think it might rise a point or two, but we'll see where it comes in. So that one we selected. They gave us 3 options. The one that we selected is fantastic, neat, opened up great with water, and then it withstood the flavor even on ice. So that was kind of the characteristics that we look for when we're selecting a barrel. Like I said, I think that one will be delivered to us next week, which would be the week of like the 22nd.
So before we get into the drinks and things like that, one of the things Joe and I talk about too when we go to different places. Do you walk in and feel welcome? Do you walk in and the servers do a good job of talking about the various food, their favorite food, their favorite selection, drinks and whatnot, and you do get that a lot here. Our experience has always been good. I know you have sometimes you could have a younger crowd, older crowd. Really doesn't make a difference. You feel like you belong when you walk in, and a good experience I think with the servers and the bartenders. Where does that magic come from? I mean, it clearly has to come from you and your wife in the way that you ask customers to be treated.
I started back in 2000 in the back of house, and I cooked for about 4 years. So from like 2000, 2004, I was a cook at a fine dining restaurant in Sandusky called Red Gables. I don't know if anybody knows it. It was extremely popular. That's right by Cedar Point. But then I rotated over to front of house, and I managed a sports bar in Sandusky called Manny's for 12 years. Well, I was there for 12 and managed for 7. And then wife and I had the opportunity to start opening up our own restaurants. So I'm 39. I have 21 years of experience in the restaurant business. My wife's 45. She has 25 years of restaurant experience. So kind of, with the front of house and the back of house experience, we knew what we wanted to be able to put out for our customers because that's what we wanted as customers. So with that experience and stuff like that, yeah.
The other thing that stands out here is the menu.
Yes.
Why don't you speak a little bit about the menu? Because I know when I walk in here, once I have figured out what drink I want, that menu has so many great options. So
what's funny is we actually changed. I wanted to be a whiskey bar that focused in on like our grass-fed gourmet burgers. When we opened up, we were selling burgers and we were selling the mac and cheese, which were the 2 main focuses, but we were selling a ton of steaks. And we had very good steaks. We had a top cap sirloin, we had a strip, a fillet, and I can't remember what the 4th one was. But we were doing way more steaks than what I had anticipated. So I was like, well, if this is what the customer base wants, let's switch it over to it now. So then we started bringing on higher end steaks, primes. We're doing an A5 Wagyu on the menu now. I think we're only one of two places that offers that now. But if you haven't had it, it's life changing. It's absolutely fantastic. You'll never crave another piece of steak again.
Is that your favorite menu item? If somebody walks in here and say you got to have this, try this, and you'll come back.
I mean, probably now, but we're running a special right now with soft shell crab, Cajun crusted soft shell crab. That's one of my favorite meals, but it's only available for a couple months out of the year. So, yeah, we do like a Cajun light batter on it, pan sear it, and then serve it over corn risotto and maple Brussels.
So my mom was born and raised in New Orleans, so that like when people say Cajun, I love that, and what you learn about it too is that so many people, especially from the north, just think hot, and it's just not.
It's
It's
not.
more than
It's a flavor.
It's exactly. It's a flavor. It's spice. It adds to it. So I'm excited that's going to be one that.
Yeah, a lot of people.
You've given me about 5 things I need to come back. I need to come back for Weller full proof. I need to come back for the Wagyu.
We'll get our second barrel of full proof in somewhere around the fall, so like August to October. That should be landing. Our next barrel that should come this summer is our Knob Creek single barrel. So we just selected that a couple weeks ago.
That's another one that we're big fans of.
Absolutely. So what are we drinking here, Gabe? This is the Weller Full Proof.
So this is our Weller Full Proof that Harlan Wheatley selected for us. He's the master distiller down at Buffalo Trace.
And this is a wheated bourbon.
Yes. Most of Sazerac's line is wheated, so all the Wellers are. Blanton's is a wheated, Eagle Rare, Buffalo Trace, and I'm probably missing a couple, but yeah, most of their stuff is a wheated bourbon.
Nice. Should we give it a try?
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You get a little bit of caramel on the nose.
You know what's amazing about this? And this is, what is it, 100?
All Weller Full Proofs are 114.
114 proof. It does not taste like 114
It doesn't.
proof. You know, usually you drink that, I think of like Wild Turkey or some of the other. You feel it. I mean, it's burning when you drink it.
Yeah.
This, you feel a little hot,
Yeah.
but it just, you taste it.
It warms you up, but I agree. Like the finish on it, there's no burn. This is.
You're right, caramel. You can taste it.
And you were bringing up, so this is an offering from Weller that is not sold in retail here.
It's not sold in Ohio retail. The only places that are getting it are bars and restaurants as of right now. I don't know if that's going to change or how it'll work. Yeah, it is. It is available on the shelves in a couple other states, but in Ohio, I don't think you'll see it first.
It's funny, when we came back, we'd come with some folks back in December, and this is the one that stood out when we had a number. We came here for a few bourbons, and this Weller Full Proof definitely stands out as
That is so smooth.
I'm going to be in search of.
I knew it was going to be good. I didn't think it was going to be this good, because I had expensive whiskeys before and stuff like that. But from start to finish, from the nose to how it ends with that slight burn going down, it's one of my favorite whiskeys.
Tell us this. This is so we asked Gabe to bring us another one that another bourbon whiskey that he enjoys. Talk to us a little bit about Masterson's.
So this is me and my best friend's favorite whiskey that we started with. It's Masterson's 10-year rye. It's from Canada. It's just extremely smooth. You don't get that really rye I don't know, pop. You know what I mean? Like rye is very full flavored. But it's just smooth, delicious, and then I just get a little bit of honey in there. It's just one of my favorite, sipping ones.
And how did you? This is the one that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A friend of mine,
The gateway to whiskey.
yeah, so I was managing a bar in Sandusky, and he was repping this. It was, and he had some samples. He's like, "Oh, here, take some whiskey." So it was batch one, and it was I wish I hadn't drank it. I wish I would. But if I hadn't drank it, then I probably might not be doing this here. It just was one of those, fortuitous things that. Batch one. A friend of mine was actually repping the whiskey, and he just gave me a thank you bottle, and just kind of started loving drinking whiskey.
So are you from the Sandusky area?
Yeah.
So we Everwild Spirits reached out to us. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're starting a group. I think they're starting a distillery in downtown Sandusky.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to do a show there. I don't think they've tapped any barrels yet. They're still kind of getting going, but
Oh, from what I understand, they're going to be finishing there until they can, have their own old enough whiskey.
Right.
So it's Rick and Gia.
Yeah.
And they were longtime customers of mine when I was in the Sandusky area.
I wondered, being from the area,
Yeah.
small,
they're-
everyone knows one another.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
But no, I wish them success, and I can't
Yeah.
wait to go try
Yeah,
their whiskey.
that'll be fun. So hey, cheers.
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 It's got quite a different nose than the full proof.
That is smooth.
Oh, wow.
And you're right. You do taste a little. There's a little sweet to it. A little. You know what this reminds me of? You're gonna hate this comparison, I'm sure. But do you remember the Basil Hayden Caribbean?
Oh,
How smooth that was.
yeah.
Almost, a little sweet. But still,
When we had that, I instructed the staff to, use that as like a step into whiskey. For for
I was going to say.
for new people to whiskey, it's that was a friendly step into whiskey. Like a lot of the females don't want to drink straight whiskey.
trying to infer.
No, but to that point, we've literally said the
I'm
Basil Hayden
totally kidding.
line.
But I love that. I love those. I love those bourbons. We've said,
It's a gateway.
bourbon. If you like Basil Hayden, you'll likely be into other bourbons. If you can,
If you can't get through Basil Hayden, just turn around. Because honestly, I don't think it may not work out for you. But that's funny that you said that because we've said that before. It's a good entry.
Like Gentleman Jack. We sell a lot of Gentleman Jack to non-whiskey drinkers, just because it's it doesn't have that depth of. Not saying that it doesn't have flavor. I'm just saying it's very easy to drink. It doesn't have that burn. It's just very hi, I'm whiskey. Same. Well, the Caribbean used to be on my wife's flight, so her flight was Woodford Reserve's chocolate. The chocolate rye that came out, the Nika coffee, which is one of my favorite after dinner whiskeys. It was the Basil Hayden Caribbean, but that's not available anymore. So we had it at the Jefferson rum barrel one, but that's gone too. I'm trying to think of what else. Amador double barrel. Okay. So her flight was very, very eclectic and good, but it was also it wasn't that barrel proof, 120 proof stuff. It was more toward the sweeter side, but you still knew you were drinking whiskey.
I've bought over the holidays as gifts the Basil Hayden Toast. Mm-hmm. It's a lower proof. It's smooth.
I haven't had a chance to try it yet.
It's really smooth. It's you could tell you're drinking something in the 80s in terms of proof. But it's again for somebody who is a casual drinker of bourbon. Everyone I've given it to, unless they're lying to me, said I like it, and I wasn't necessarily a bourbon person, but it's actually pretty good.
I think a lot of the veteran guys of whiskey, it's not for them, right? Because it is kind of like how are you on level 12 and this is level 2? It's hard to go back. But I always kind of like one of the bottles that I cracked at home recently was John Bowman, which is not an expensive bottle whatsoever. It's here in Ohio occasionally. They don't bring a whole lot here, but it was fantastic. It's like a $45 bottle when you can find it, but it was great. It's actually the same mash bill as Blanton's, so if you can find the Bowman, you're pretty much close to Blanton's.
It's always good to know these. It's always good to know these things.
99% sure that the Bowman is the same mash bill as Blanton's.
Jeez.
That's pretty cool.
That is, and that's to your point. That's going to be probably 5 years from now. You can't find it.
The Bowman stuff's not terribly hard to find.
But if once your secret comes out, is my point.
That out, so nobody knows.
Exactly.
But there's some of the Bowman stuff that is like elite, that goes for a couple $100 for a bottle. But like the entry level stuff is, it's very, very good. So if you find a whiskey that you like, just go to Google, find out what the mash bill is, and then you'll look at that ratio, rye, corn, wheat, barley, whatever it is. If you Google that same mash bill, you can find things that are very similar for what you would be interested in.
Concept.
That is.
Yeah, we're both big fans of rye.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've noticed, I haven't done it like you've suggested, although I'm going to now. I look for something, it's kind of similar in terms of the ryes and the mix, just because it's smoother for me personally.
And the Angel's Envy rye is one that I personally
that's
like.
a Caribbean cask, so that's going to be closer to what your Basil Hayden Caribbean is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That one, and that's a big fan favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, that's an expensive bottle. I think that one's around $100.
It's $100.
And that one is very, very mapley to me. Like, I just kind of want to pour it on my pancakes.
So we encourage everyone to come down to Char here in Rocky River at 19337 Detroit Road in downtown Rocky River, and maybe you'll be lucky enough to walk in and meet Gabe, and he'll ask you what kind of drink you're drinking, and and by the way, he'll give it all away and all the food you want for free, and including the Wagyu strip steak, believe it or not. Kidding, but definitely come in for that. Joe and I are going to come back for the steak, and it's going to be outstanding.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the other part of it. I mean, we spent a lot of time today talking about the bourbon selection and the cocktails, but the food here is first rate. And
Absolutely.
so definitely come down. It's a very, there's a lot of great, options on the menu, but great for dinner, also great for brunch, as we talked about. So, a lot
Saturday and Sunday mornings.
when you come to Rocky River, definitely come to Char. So, but thanks again, Gabe.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank you,
the
Gabe.
time today.
So we've moved away from doing some of the taste testing of some of the bourbon, and we've moved on now to some drinks here at Char. And the first one we're going to be doing is the Sazerac, which is one of the oldest cocktails that you could find out there. It dates back, I think, to the New Orleans area, Joe, actually.
Absolutely.
You have ties in New Orleans.
Yes.
It's a real simple drink. Here at Char, they make it with the house Sazerac with Old Forester. But Joe, they went with?
Yeah, Woodford Reserve, which I think was, we're going to try this in a second, but Woodford Reserve mixes so well in most cocktails, so we'll check it out.
Very smooth bourbon. So the idea of the Sazerac is very simple. It's bourbon, it's some bitters, chilled in a glass. Meanwhile, you have another glass, you coat it with absinthe, which, as we were joking earlier, is the good absinthe nowadays. Absinthe has its own history. If you go ahead and Google it, you'll see back in the day. They'll coat it. Some Char actually sprays it with a spray bottle, coats it, pours that in, chilled, without ice, and serves it without ice in a glass. This is typically what you're going to get when you get the glass. So you don't expect it to be to the top, but it is a very simple, nice tasting bourbon drink, and you can really have it with any kind of food, quite frankly.
That's right. And like you said, the New Orleans lineage, of course, my mom born and raised there. Sazerac is one of my all-time favorites, so let's give it a shot.
Cheers. Exceptionally smooth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell, like with the Woodford Reserve, this drink, Old Forester would work as well, but I think with the Woodford Reserve, this is outstanding.
And Joe, we've said it before too. I mean, a good cocktail should be a good cocktail, flavorful. You taste some of the bourbon. Whatever you're mixing it, whatever bitters you're mixing with. We learned that when we were with, I think it's Chez Francois.
Yep.
Depending on the bitters you're using, other things you add to it, it's supposed to bring out other flavors, right, to the drink. So we're not tasting 100% bourbon here. We're not supposed to.
Yeah.
It's a smooth drink that has a lot of aroma to it and a lot of different flavors.
Yeah, the way that they've set this place up, I mean, the bartenders are top notch.
They know what they're doing.
They do, and this is a well-balanced drink that clearly, hits the mark. And again, Sazerac is a classic. So if you're going to come down here, their cocktail menu is pretty extensive.
Yes.
But this is definitely one to try. Cheers again. Welcome back. We are going to have our second cocktail here at Char, and this one today is the Boulevardier. So with the Boulevardier, as we were talking about before, they have the Woodford Reserve. That's normally what it is. The base different. Yeah, we're of course we're going to go a little bit off script. We went with New Riff,
We also have a Campari, that's part of the drink, which is an Italian liqueur, as well as La Cantini, Rouge Vermouth. So let's give it a shot.
And New Riff's one of your favorites.
It is one of my favorites. I've got 2 bottles at home.
So high expectations.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Don't judge us on these glasses. That's a good drink.
That is a good drink. And you can definitely taste, it's got a little bit of bitterness to it, but it's a hint. And then you get some of that citrusy. It's definitely a good drink, and I think this is interesting because this is one that I don't think we've had in our other episodes.
I don't think I've had this. I don't even know if I've had it here when I've been here before. It's definitely. I can imagine this drink. I would probably ask him what it's best paired with because I have a feeling it's good with certain types of food based on its bitterness.
Yep.
But it's a tasty drink. It's a smooth drink. Another smooth drink that's flavorful.
That's right. Rose, who was serving up the drinks today, fantastic bartender, and produced what I would say, like you said, well balanced, and intermingling where it's Woodford Reserve or New York. I don't think you can go wrong with this. So, cheers again.
Yes. So we're going to finish now with one final cocktail. We actually had a nice brunch meal here.
Yep.
Had the burgers with, was it the breakfast burger, Joe, with eggs on top, which is phenomenal, by the way.
And I have a breakfast BLT, so either way,
Outstanding.
definitely come down for brunch.
Help counteract some of the bourbon we've been drinking here today. It's early morning on a Saturday. So our next drink is actually kind of unique, obviously here to Char, and it has some kind of unique characteristics with it. It's sort of maple style Manhattan. And the cool thing about it is some of the ingredients, as I look at it, the walnut liqueur, sweet vermouth, the bourbon we talked about with that bourbon maple syrup.
That's a weighted Weller Special Reserve.
That's right. And the cool thing about, I have some, I think you may have some too, Joe. They're coming out with a lot of bourbon and maple syrup, for pancakes or whatever you want, or drinks like we're doing today. So it's kind of a cool mix. And then, of course, garnished with a waffle on top. So everything we just talked about cannot be bad. We're talking about sugar and bourbon. So
Exactly.
we're going to have at it. So let's give this a try. I'm going to dip mine. Get some flavor in there and see what it tastes like.
You can't go wrong.
You're going to have about 3 or 4 of these at breakfast.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's good. That is. And that extra maple taste gives it a sweetness, but it's not overpowering.
It is
That's
not
a big-
overpowering. And it's not like you think with all the things we just mentioned, actually there's even a little simple syrup in there. It's not overly sweet. It's and probably it was the Weller, correct? The Weller, I think,
Weller Special Reserve, green label.
and I think the Weller is just such a strong bourbon
Yeah.
that it's counteracting a lot of the sugary sweet taste, but blending well with it.
Exactly. I was expecting much sweeter than this, but it's like I said, it is brunch and a bourbon cocktail.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Highly recommend it if you come here to Char. Wow.
Again, we've tried 3 great cocktails, bad food here. We tried a couple of the special bourbon, we have Weller Cold Brew, we have Mastersons, and all I know about Char is it is a must-go-to establishment here in Rocky River. Whether you're going to come for just happy hour or for a meal or even brunch, you will go away happy. That is absolutely.
I think the kind of cool thing too is you're meeting an entrepreneur like Gabe. We didn't get to meet his wife, but I think they're partners in business, having other businesses. Most notably, the one that you opened up downtown, Indy, I believe.
Indy, right there on East Fork.
It's kind of cool, and he I think confirmed this. Bourbon, this whole genre of different sorts of bourbons is all about finding something you like doesn't necessarily have to be ultra expensive. It could be just something you enjoy tasting. And I think we've established in other shows we've done, Joe, that bourbon is like a lot of things, a lot of commodities. The more popular something becomes, the price goes up. And so there are some pricey bourbons out there that are good. But there are also some ones that are not that expensive that are good too.
Exactly. So that's the pursuit we're on. But as for today, Char is one of the best establishments here that, in Cleveland. Definitely come out to see it. What we have here, the Maple Manhattan, just another example of great bartending, very balanced, and a really awesome cocktail.
Absolutely. 19337 Detroit Road here in downtown Rocky River. Come down, enjoy an evening at Char, or enjoy an evening somewhere else here in the area. And up here at Char, you won't be disappointed. You'll be very satisfied. It's a great, great experience. And also their French. So cheers to Char.
Cheers to Gabe and the staff. Thank you very much.